Welcome back to Money with Mission. Today I'm excited to have Dr. Johanna B. Moore. Johanna is a mother of twins, a triple board certified physician, respected medical director of multiple laboratories who found herself overwhelmed instead of fulfilled by the life she worked so hard to achieve. She realized that success wasn't what she thought it would be, so she set on a journey to find a life that truly fulfilled. Her transformation has been so life changing that she has been driven to build her success strategy company, She Is Money. Through She Is Money and its membership, the So Money Society, she teaches and coaches the success strategy that continues to change her life. She teaches to high achieving women so that they can truly thrive instead of feel chained to their achievements. The purpose of the So Money Society is to guide you to advance in your career and personal life with joy and tenacity alongside a group of amazing women just like you who want to grow and change the world. Johanna now lives in Southern California with her husband and her children and is living and working to live the life that she truly, truly desires.
Be the
Welcome to the
change
show.
you want to see. Make a difference by giving your money a purpose, a mission to do good. Welcome to Money with Mission, where we show you how to create passive income so that you have options for how to work and how to live your life while leaving a legacy of positive social impact.
Okay, guys, welcome back to Money with Mission. I have Johanna Moore with me, who is the founder and chief success strategist of She Is Money. Now, you heard her introduction. I talked about the She Is Money. Now, you got to explain it to us. What is that? And then we'll get to where you came from and how you got to there. But first, what is She Is Money? That phrase.
Great. It is so nice to be here. Thanks for having me. She is money is a phrase that I coined. Actually, I really wanted to use the word money, even though I'm a success coach. And the reason why is because my daughter's nickname is Money.
Okay.
And part of the reason why I wanted to use it is because I deal with women, successful women, who are a little bit stuck. And I thought, wouldn't it be amazing if I started this now while she's 5 at that time? And by the time she needed it, I already had this amazing resource for her, and she'd already seen so much of it. So that was really why I wanted to start She Is Money. So money is a phrase that means it's a state of mind. It means that you don't need money. You don't need more money. You don't need more resources, more time, more energy. You already have it. It's already a part of you. You're able to create it. You just need to figure out how to create it. And that's where I think a lot of people are mistaken in the way that they live their lives, is that they're always looking for the resource, but really all you need is resourcefulness. And
Mhm.
that's what So Money is. It means that you already are more valuable than any money you want or desire or need. You just need to figure out how to do it and have the belief and the faith that you can.
Amazing. So realizing that you already have it is probably the first step, and then finding it within you. Actually, probably, well, you tell me. Once you realize it, is it the rest is kind of an easy thing to come. It's like, oh, I already have it. You said so many things, and we all are looking at in our tendency and what we've been taught is that what we need is outside of us, our resources and I need to find the right person to help me do this. I need to find the right, I need to, all of that is all outside of us. But what you're talking about, it sounds like, is realizing that you have it. You were born with it, and now we got to help you find it. Yes?
Exactly. And
Okay.
I believe that everyone was born with endless possibilities.
Mhm.
And the second you're born, all of a sudden those possibilities start disappearing. You're named. People tell you you're a boy or a girl. They start to socialize you in a certain way. They tell you you like cheese, you aren't good at the piano. And you start incorporating that into your identity. And that's
Mhm.
important.
Mhm.
But at the same time, it doesn't mean that it's true.
Yes, it can be very limiting. Let's go back. You are a physician. triple board certified, which even as a physician, I was like, what does that mean? Triple board certified. And you got all that and we're not there. It just felt like it wasn't all that you were there to be. Talk about how you, first of all, how did you become a physician? Not the tactics of it, but what happened? How did you get there?
For sure. When I hear it coming back to me, I think, how could I not have been satisfied with that? But I wasn't. Well, I always wanted to be a physician,
Okay.
and I was in med school, and I was thinking, okay, I think I like pathology. It's very contemplative field. You don't have to worry as much about patients, like bring it
Mhm.
home and think about it all night. That's what I thought. And so I really had my heart set on pathology, and I knew I wanted to be a dermatopathologist, which is a very small specialty of pathology where you look at skin biopsies that are taken from dermatologists mostly.
Okay.
And I was at Ohio State, the Ohio State University, which is a great university, and was doing well. But I always felt a little bit off, like I was a little bit behind everybody, and that I always had something that I needed to prove.
Okay.
And I can remember it really culminated when I went to when we had our letter opening for the match.
Okay. Hmm.
And I can remember I decided I was going to go for all the best programs, Stanford, Harvard, Cornell, and of course, Ohio State. And so I had a range of places that I applied to, but most of them were pretty good schools. And
Okay.
the day before the match, I thought, I'm not sure if that was a good idea. Like maybe I should have like gone for some low balls. And I was really, really nervous. In fact, I had convinced myself that I wasn't going to match.
Okay.
And in med school, as you know, that's a really stressful lot.
Yes. Yes.
So
Yes.
I actually went to see my counselor, and I wanted to know, like, why don't you just tell me now? Because I know you already know the lists. And she looked me in the eye and she said, I don't want you to cry tomorrow. Whatever happens, I want you to just go and see how things go,
Oh
and we'll
my
take it from there.
gosh.
And she was like very not helpful.
Oh my gosh.
So then I was like interpreting through the lines, oh yeah, I definitely did not
Didn't match.
match.
That's what I heard too.
So then I went, and all the families are there and they blow the horn. Everybody opens their letters, and I started bawling. And my family, they were all looked at me and they were like, "What happened? Are you okay?" Like waiting for me to say, like, I have to scramble. And I was like, "I'm going to
Oh
Harvard."
my God.
And you'd think that that would be enough, that you would feel like, okay, I made this huge, huge accomplishment. And now I feel like successful, like I made it. But of course, for me, it wasn't. I felt like I barely even celebrated that.
Yeah.
And I think that's so common in our community, especially with women,
Yeah.
that you have like a huge, huge win. And it's almost like you brush it off like it was just a fluke, or I didn't work that hard for it. And that's not true. I deserve to go. I worked really hard to get there.
You're first of all, I was about to cry thinking about, oh my gosh, what's going to happen? So you tell that story amazingly. Tears are actually almost in my eyes right now. I feel it. And I am like you and barely celebrate an accomplishment. It's like, okay, now next thing, what do I get? What's I've got now? Oh my God. If I had been you and got into Harvard, I'm like, oh my gosh, now I've got to prove myself at Harvard. And now I've got to do all
Right.
this work once I get there. And
Right.
just glance by the thought that you matched at Harvard. And it's not like they just give out these things. There's a whole process to this. And anybody who's not a physician, it's a process. I bet every listener out there can probably identify in some way with getting something big and then moving right past it.
Absolutely.
Right. And go ahead.
And it was so interesting looking back, because I remember I was at a party afterwards, And one of my friends who was much older and already, she's a psychologist, and she said, "Why do you even want to leave Columbus? I mean, Columbus is amazing. You have a family here." And I'd been there for 10 years at that point. I was really assimilated into the community.
Mhm.
And I said, I just really want to prove to myself that I can do it. And she looked at me and she said, "But why do you have to prove yourself?" And I didn't get it at the time.
Yeah. Yeah. No. Wow. I probably would have. I think our paths sound very, very much the same, and which makes me realize that our paths are like so many other women physicians' paths, who we've been trying to prove ourselves for a very, very long
Our
time.
whole lives.
Do you think so? Early on, you talked about how when you're born with infinite possibilities. We are, I believe that also. And then you start being assimilated into our culture.
Yes.
Was the idea to be a physician planted in you, do you believe? And I don't mean in a negative way, but just in some societal way. And you started that path that because you said, I always wanted to be a physician. I just knew it. And that's a very interesting thing to me. So do you think you were born with that, or do you think that came from somewhere else?
Absolutely. I think that, well, my very first memory of deciding that was that actually I wanted to be a shopping center checkout girl.
Okay.
And it's funny because my kids they just turned 8. I have
Okay.
twins.
Uh-huh.
And I hear them saying similar things, like when they're talking, negotiating, like what they're going to be. And I thought that the checkout girl got all the money in the cashier.
Okay.
So I thought that's the best person to be. And then when I realized that they don't, then I thought, oh, well, I'll just be a doctor then. So part of it was about the money. And from the very beginning,
Hmm.
which is just hilarious, as you know, it's
Yeah.
one of the biggest misconceptions is that physicians earn a lot of money, um, and relatively speaking. And
Yes.
but my parents definitely supported that, and they're both immigrants and well educated, and they wanted me to be a doctor or an
Mhm.
optometrist or a dentist.
Mm.
They
Okay.
didn't want me to be a lawyer.
Yeah.
But yeah, they definitely pushed that, and I was the middle child and very driven, and always successful, good at things.
Mhm.
It was very easy for me to just work hard and get good at something. And
Gotcha.
so I think they pushed me very hard.
Okay. All
Um,
right. So now you're at Harvard, and you're proving yourself all along. You got all your degrees, you got all your matches, your triple board certified, and you get into practice. Or did you start having this, I'm not, this might not be the whole thing before you even finished all that?
oh no, I had no idea. I loved and still love medicine.
Hmm.
And I thought that I had made the correct choice.
Hmm.
But I also believed that we were supposed to suffer. Like
Mm.
doctors are supposed to suffer,
Mm.
work hard, take care of everybody else before yourselves, never get
Mm.
sleep. And I, like probably like you, graduated before the 80-hour work week was installed.
Yep.
And in pathology at Mass General, we basically worked all the time. And we would go, there was this dinner for residents, and it was at 10 o'clock, either 9 or 10 o'clock at night. It was basically leftover dinner. And it would be the pathologists and the surgeons
Hmm. Hmm.
there.
Wow.
So yeah, we worked hard.
That's it's interesting because I chose I got it. I went to medical school after I told my father that I wanted to be a veterinarian like him. And he told me, if you're going to school that long, you're going to medical school. And it was
Mhm,
like a switch for me. I never,
mhm.
after that moment, was going to vet school. I was going to medical school. Once in medical school, I was looking at OBGYN, you're doing your rotations. And I was like, okay, OBGYN, this is really cool. I really like it, but I don't want that life. I don't want to be
Mm.
up all night. So I had that idea at least then that I didn't. And that's why I picked urology, honestly, several reasons. But one of them was call's not that bad. You can really get a chance to have a life. And it was important to me at that point that wanted that life. I wanted to get married. I wanted to have kids. I wanted all the rest of things that you think normal people do, and not just suffer like we think we have to do in medicine. It's very, very interesting. Okay, when did you realize, or when did you decide that there was
Well,
more, that this wasn't?
I'd like to say that I figured it out pretty quickly, but in the grand scheme of things, like most people out there, probably many of the people listening to your podcast, I actually figured it out pretty late,
Yeah.
probably around 40.
Okay.
And so I went to an amazing private practice after all of my fellowships and residencies, all that training. And I felt really lucky that I got the position because it just happened to be someone who was a Mass General alum who I had met at a conference and taken his card. And I happened to find it when I was interviewing. And I called him up and he was so excited to have me. And the practice is in the central coast of California.
Okay.
And so I went in and you fly over vineyards and the ocean. And I thought, yeah, this is the place I want to be for sure.
After Boston all those years, yeah.
I know. There's dirt in your backyard. And I mean, I loved Boston and
Yeah.
I trained in San Francisco as well. And I loved San Francisco. But I felt sort of like you did, that I wanted to have a family and a dog and
Mm.
all those things, that it's a little bit easier when you're out in a more rural situation. So thankfully, they hired me. It was a 10-person partner group, and they offered me a partnership position. And it took a couple years for them to be ready for me. But I joined, and I can remember joining. And the weekend after that, I was sitting at the pool at the fitness club, and the water was sparkling. It's California, and my toes were freshly painted. I had no kids, no responsibilities. And I thought, I have made it. This is
Okay.
it. I've
Okay.
totally made it. And unfortunately, because of all the things we've already talked about, all of the baggage that I brought with me, my feeling of success, true success, and that feeling of accomplishment and fulfillment that I gave myself lasted about as long as my toenails started to chip. And pretty soon I was in the same cycle that I'd always been in, trying to prove things to my partners. You know,
Mhm.
I got pregnant very early on in my at my job, and the whole time I was worried about my partnership position and what
Mhm.
they were going to do. And I was the first woman, like young woman, having
Mhm.
children in their practice. All of the
Mhm.
other partners are older men who worked through the 90s and 80s when reimbursement was amazing, and
Yeah.
had wives who took care of their kids. And
Yeah.
so they really didn't understand what I was going through at all. And I believed, one misconception that I had, that I think is something that women are socialized to believe, is that they were supposed to take care of me. And I felt like they were going to teach me about the business. They were going to mentor me in pathology. They were going to help me with my money.
Mm.
And all of these misconceptions about what I expected from them that they
Okay.
probably didn't even know I expected.
Right.
And the problem was is that I was wrong. And part of the reason is that they actually didn't know some of the things I wanted to know.
Mhm.
And number two is they had their own lives, and they didn't really feel like they needed to always think, oh, maybe Johanna would be interested in this deal, or, things like that, that like
Okay.
maybe I would have expected my own father, who was deceased at that time, to tell me.
Are you talking
And
about a medical teaching, or are you talking about other life teaching when you're talking about a deal or things like
mostly
that?
other life teaching,
Okay.
they were pretty good about the medical side. Of course, they were
Okay.
invested in teaching me that.
Okay. Okay.
And I was very lucky because in my first job, I had very, very good mentors
Okay.
medically. Yeah.
Okay.
So my trajectory went really high, really fast because of that. And I'm very grateful for them for that.
Okay. So
But
you
I
had
was
this.
thinking it was like about finances and
Gotcha.
like buying a house and finding you know, um, financial planner
Yeah.
and things like that. I just
Yeah.
kind of expected them to teach me.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
even more related to the business, I expected them to teach me about business.
Uh-huh.
But as you know, doctors usually don't know that much
They don't
about
know that much
business.
about. Yeah,
And they had
exactly.
a CEO. And
Yeah.
um, the thing that really messed with my plan that I didn't realize was that they had actually sold their laboratory right before I came, but they did not change their contracts. So I signed a contract that sounded like I would be buying into something,
Right.
but I actually was only buying into the practice, like the
Yeah.
professional practice, which doesn't really have a lot of equity in it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and I didn't understand or realize that really.
Yeah.
So when it came time for me to matriculate into partnership, they expected me to pay $50,000, but it was for accounts receivable. Like it didn't
Yeah.
really make sense to me at that time.
Which
And I didn't
means you
know
learned
that.
something about business, because many of us would have just paid, oh, here's $50,000 because now I'm going to be a partner. You thought about it. This makes no sense.
Yeah.
We're going to get back to She Is Money, because you said something a long time ago that I'm sure everybody's going, how come you didn't ask her about how is your daughter called Money? We're going to take a quick break and come right back. What is your biggest fear about investing? The primary reason most of us don't invest isn't lack of money or lack of motivation. It's fear of making a mistake and losing. Come on and play Cash Flow Classic. Did you know that games are the best way to learn anything new? When you play Cash Flow Classic, you won't feel the painful humiliation or monetary loss you experience when you make the wrong stock pick or your real estate investment doesn't go as you thought it would. You can practice buying and selling stocks or investing in real estate for capital gains or cash flow as often as you like. Simulate how you would handle real investing opportunities before you shell out your hard-earned money. It's fun, it's safe, and it's free to play. We're playing regularly. I choose 6 women to play. Yes, ladies, it's all for us. And we have had a great time. Go to moneywithmission.com, click on Cashflow Classic to register for our next game. Come on, let's play. Okay. Hey, you guys, we're back. Still here with Johanna Moore. We've been talking about her trajectory to where she is now. And like most of us, or many of us that are listening to this podcast or in medicine, or have had disappointments. We thought we had gotten to where we were supposed to be. This is it. I've made it. And then you have this nagging feeling that there's something else out there. I remember being in my kitchen less than 5 years into urology and something said, is this it? And like Johanna, it took me quite a bit longer to figure out, no, that wasn't it. And now feel like I'm where I'm supposed to be with Money with Mission and the social impact part of all that and helping other people understand that. So now I know half the people out there are listening. Didn't she say her daughter's nickname is Money? And there's probably people got so many different thoughts around that. So explain to us how that came to be.
My children are amazing. I'm sure every mother would say that, but mine really are. My children are 8-year-old twins right now. And when they were very young, for some reason, my son Max couldn't say Mia. So he
Okay.
would say money. And so he called her money all through their toddlerhood.
Okay.
And it caught on. So we call her money now. And the thing about her is that she came out of the womb like, I'm going to get every single one of you. Like she just had fire from the beginning. Whereas my son was like, why are you hurting me? And she definitely has the entrepreneurial spirit.
Okay.
She is true to her nickname. She's always trying to hustle, like selling anything on the side of the street. And always, she told me her birthday is coming up and she said, can we get swag? I was like, what's swag? And she's like shirts with my name on it and we could
Oh,
sell them. It's like, okay, well, yeah,
don't you
sure.
love it? Don't you love it?
It's
Because she would
amazing.
never think that. Why would people want things with my name on it? She's like, I want shirts with my name on it, and I'm going to sell them because everybody wants my name on their shirt.
Right,
Everybody wants
right. Like,
that.
yeah,
It's
she's already an influencer, like, in her mind.
and I know you are working as hard as you can to keep it there. Let
Yeah,
her
for
be who
sure.
she's supposed to be.
Yeah, she
Amazing.
helps me with, my social media, even though she's only 8, because she's getting so good at, like, the YouTube Shorts and the TikTok, and so she'll show me like, "Oh, this is a really hot song right now," and then I'll use it.
Wow. It's so much fun. So much fun. And how is
That's good.
Max balancing that for you?
Oh, well, as I said, Max is sort of like the more, like, socially cuddly, emotionally cuddly figure, and he's just like the penultimate boy we were talking about before. Like, you are handed all of these things about your identity, and
Mhm,
he, whether I've done it to him or not, is like, he loves sports. He's the alpha male. He's always like vying with his friends, like, who's like in charge. And he's just so lovely and brings so much joy to me. And really, my children completely changed my perspective on life, because I remember, and all of the women out there who have children probably feel the same way. I was working so hard trying to figure out how to be a good mom, and I was
mhm,
reading all these psychology books, child psychology, and
mhm.
I realized when I was reading these books, wow, like, I can use this technique on my colleagues for sure. And then I realized I can use these on myself. And I think
Nice.
that was a really big breakthrough for me, and a segue into my coaching career was, these things actually work on you if you know that they're there and you realize that you're doing them, that you can actually cause that neuroplasticity to happen on your own.
Mm, okay, cool. Let's talk about your coaching. So you founder, chief success strategist for She Is Money. I went to look up She Is Money in urban dictionaries, and we talked about this a little earlier, and you said when you first found it, it was kind of sleazy, but what I found was you are exceptional, you are um, above average and out to do so many amazing things in the world. That's what I found it, and you found it from a movie called Swingers. I'm going to tell your story, sorry. And I listened to that little clip, and it's funny, you guys. So it's a 1996 movie, but and the actors in there we know now, but they are so young. It's really funny.
Yeah,
It's
that's
really funny.
definitely a cult classic from
It's
those of us who were born in the 70s and 80s and could appreciate it when it came out.
I liked it. I like that little clip. I'm gonna have to watch the whole thing. So you founded this company and now you're coaching and you're helping other women through things. Talk about who's your ideal client? Who are you working with? How are you helping them? Talk to me about that.
Absolutely. Well, some of it has to do with my past that we haven't talked about yet. So I'll go through it kind of
Good.
quickly. Once I realized that I was still unhappy, even though I
Mhm,
had everything at that point, I had an amazing job, I had the house, I had the husband and the kids. I realized that I was exhausted,
mhm,
overwhelmed.
mhm,
I felt guilty because I felt like, how can I not be happy with all
mhm,
of this?
mhm,
And I felt alone.
mhm,
I felt very alone, like I was holding up the world, and I was always behind at work and always behind at home, and
mhm.
never the perfect wife, never the perfect mom. And that is a really terrible
It's a
situation to be in, and a very common one.
Yeah. I was going to say, I'm sure there are women out there, just like I'm doing, shaking our heads, going, especially medical professionals, high performing women in careers are going, oh my gosh, she's speaking my language.
Yeah, for
Yes.
sure. And
Yes.
and the worst part is that I believed that I had no other choice.
Yes. Hmm.
That this is what I signed up for and this is what it was going to be like until the end.
Hmm. It's
And
pretty
that's such
depressing,
a
isn't it?
lie, you guys.
It is
That's such a lie.
such a lie. And it's depressing if you sit in that. S-
Yes, for sure.
Just get out. If you're sitting in it now, you're hearing
Call
it.
me.
The two of
Call me if
us,
you are.
two people right now, if you know nobody else will tell you you are not alone and you don't have to stay there.
It doesn't
Here we
have to
go.
be that
It
way.
does not have to be that way.
Mm-mm.
Okay, so you were there. What is it about you that made you realize I don't have, this is not real. This is not true that I
I
have to
was
stay here.
forced. I was
Okay.
forced.
Okay.
I think a lot of people in our situation were forced by one circumstance or another. It's hard to start reading all of Tony Robbins' books if you are happy or
That's
semi-happy.
true.
Uh, well, as I said before, the practice that I had joined um, didn't own anything
Mhm,
anymore.
mhm.
And so some of the people in the practice were also unhappy, but they were older and had gotten their payout. And so they had a lot more clout, I thought, than I did. And so
Okay.
they actually started splitting off, and
Mm,
all of the partners started fighting.
mm. Okay.
And it was like a divorce,
Yeah.
and I was the kid.
Yeah.
And I couldn't find my hold in the situation. Part of it was my self-esteem, and part of it was that I didn't really have a great understanding of what was happening.
Mhm.
There were a lot of closed door meetings, and I didn't
That you,
really
that as a
I wasn't
partner
at the
you were not
table.
involved in. Okay.
I was not a partner because
Right.
remember I said I didn't want that deal.
Oh, you didn't. Okay. So you, I
Yeah,
didn't take it because it didn't make sense to you. So you're not a partner. So
right.
now they're making decisions that affect you in a big
Yes.
way and
Yes,
you have nothing to
yes,
say. Okay.
yes. And eventually I started I started standing up for myself and asking big questions and asking about the companies and asking when I was going to get a seat at the table and what that would look like. And I realized after some pushing that I was not going to get a seat at that table
Okay.
ever.
Okay.
And when I finally realized that, I sat down with my immediate boss and I said, "We have to come up with a plan." And he was like 80 at the time.
Wow. Okay.
And I said, Do you have an exit plan? Can I buy in when you leave? What does that look like to you?" And he was pretty clear that he did not want me involved in any way in any of his legacy.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he was very clear about that. And I personally felt like it was because I was a woman.
Mhm.
Some of the things he said, they were very derogatory towards women. And I didn't think that was fair.
Was he the person who brought you in? Was he the guy that was
Yes,
from your program?
yes,
Okay.
yes,
That's
yes,
hard.
yes. And it was
Okay.
terrible because he really, he's a great person, and he helped me a lot and taught
Mhm.
me a lot. And I
Mhm.
did think of him as a mentor and a father figure at that
Yeah.
point.
Yes.
It was very hard for me.
Yes.
But I finally said, well, then I need to leave. I
Okay.
need to leave. And how do we do that? And I gave him, we worked on some options. We negotiated with a sister group that runs the hospitals in the area.
Okay.
And he just couldn't come to a conclusion. And so I interviewed everywhere, thought about moving. And finally, I just we were working on a deal together where he was going to transition my employment to the hospital group, because
Okay.
at that time I was actually working for both groups, but he was farming me out to the group and they were paying him.
Okay.
So everything was still funneling through him. I was his employee, but I was already working for a lot of different groups. And so the best scenario that we were working on was that he was going to transition my employment to them, and the accounts receivable were going to kind of dissolve. Like they were
Okay.
going to figure it out,
Okay.
basically. And that fell through. And when that fell through, I said, sort of in retrospect, it was very brash of me and very brave/stupid. But I said, I quit. I quit and I'm starting my own corporation. And
Okay.
in 2 months, I built a corporation and I started getting contracts, and I negotiated an independent contractor deal with the hospitals and with the hospital based group. And I left.
And you, it's like that's huge. And I'm sure you can look back on that now and go, that was huge. And you can look back on it now and think, well, that might have been dumb, except that it worked. right?
It worked.
And how
And
many
here I
things do
am.
we sit there looking at and go, well, that's not a smart thing to do. That's not a smart thing to do, looking forward at it. Whereas if you just jumped and did it, you could look back and go, yeah, that was dumb, but hey, it worked.
It
So
worked.
it took a lot of courage, which you might not have realized you had. Maybe you did, but a lot of courage to do that. And there's obviously something in you that helped you to do that. Did you have your husband talking in your ear? Was it the fact that you had the kids and you knew I needed to be here and show something to my kids? Because that's how I got to a lot of things that I did. Is like, I can't let my kids see me like this. I
Mm,
have to show them something else. That's how that forces me forward. I have two daughters. They force me forward on a regular basis. Now by talking to me, but back then, just by being my children, they forced me forward. So
yeah.
what do you think that was in you?
At that time, for me, it was pure ego.
Okay.
It was pure ego. And I think it brought out a couple of points. The first point is what I'm telling you is that everybody is money, but you just don't know it.
Hmm.
And I thought, nobody supported me in this move. My husband and my mother, they were just silently like staring me down all the time. Like, this is a terrible idea. And yeah, so I was doing it alone. I mean, they were silently supportive, but really they were really scared for
Were they
me.
but they stayed silent, or they weren't actively keeping you or trying to keep you from doing it?
Yeah, they were
Okay.
like quietly dissenting, but
Okay.
willing to believe in me enough.
Okay. All right.
And yeah, so for me at that time, it was pure ego. I had not read very much. I'd read a lot of business books,
Okay.
but I hadn't really read a lot of self-development books.
Okay.
And so I really didn't understand how to manage my mind at that time.
Hmm.
And I made some mistakes, and it was purely uh I want to succeed and prove these people wrong sort
Okay.
of grit.
Here that comes back. I have to prove myself.
Yes,
So that's
yes,
okay. Got it.
always,
Uh-huh.
always.
Yep.
And so I had a midlife crisis, and instead of buying a Porsche, I went to Tony Robbins events, and I
Been there.
and
Yeah.
learned a lot. And I was lucky because I could bring my husband because he runs his own small business, and we just our minds were exploding
Yep.
with the amount of information about all sorts of things, not just like managing your mind and learning all the woo woo stuff, but just like deep spirituality and finance and business, all of those things interconnect. And that's the thing that I really loved about business, was that people in business, they spend so much time figuring out what their brand is and what it means and what their story is and
Hmm.
what they're trying to attract and why. And I feel like that is so relevant to your life.
Yeah.
And in fact, in She Is Money, I talk a lot about like, what is your story? What are your goals? What are your values? Who do you want in your life? It's directly come from business.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
instead of, I think a lot of people in business, they take the personal development and they bring it in. For me, I'm going the opposite way. I'm
Yeah.
bringing in my business acumen and I'm applying it to your actual life, because in business, it's a lot like medicine or science. They actually have like strategies and protocols, and they test. And that's something that is so useful in your own life.
And I can see how uh, the women that you work with, and you mostly work with women, yes, okay,
Yes.
would, as science minded people or strategy minded people and how we work, was like, oh, this is tested stuff. This isn't the woo woo, even though that woo woo is real. That you
Mhm.
can actually look at this and say, this is going to work if I apply these principles. And that's key. I love that. That is
Exactly.
really, really good. And thinking about my life as a business, and who do I want to attract? Who are my customers, which are, the people, who do I serve, which is what we're here to do. We're here to serve. We're here to also receive, ladies. We are here to receive. Many of us forget that part. including me. I have my coach working with me on receiving. Um, but those are all huge things for our lives. And once we can appreciate that about ourselves, and once we can um, really feel that about ourselves, now we're ready to get out there and do the thing. That's one of the last words on your, one of the last sentences in your, on your, one of your pages on your website about women who want to change the world. And that's where we're going here. We want everybody to reach their full personal potential, because without that, we are stuck in some of the stuff we're stuck in right now that we don't have to be. We can be so much better than where we are in the world. I'm not talking about us individually, but the world. And it's going to take all of us to change that.
I
All of
think that
us.
is so well said, Felicia. You really
Thank
hit
you.
it on the nail. Yeah.
Thank you.
And I
Thank you.
think it's related to you and your girls and realizing how important an influence you are for them.
Yes. Yeah. And when we expand that to everybody else, and we're an example every day to somebody, it's huge. You want to be your best.
It's
And
so big.
and I'm working every day to be my best every single day.
Every day. And that's what I was talking about was the initially for me it was ego. It was a very like masculine energy.
Mhm.
And I realized after the next 5 almost 10 years after that happened, that actually you can still give and you can still love and you can still find joy and you can do it for other people and you can still be successful and you can still bring in money, and you don't have to always be proving yourself and pushing forward and pushing people around and winning the negotiation.
Yeah. You definitely talk about on your, in your program, defining success for yourself, not letting somebody else tell you or the culture tell you what success is, which is so key, so key. Johanna, I've had an amazing time talking to you. How can people get in touch with you? Because I'm sure after this, there's going to be a bunch of them who realize they need your help. They want you in their life, and She Is Money in their life.
If you are on the fence and you're still want to know a little bit more about me, I would suggest going to Instagram, she.is.money. That's my handshake. You can see my personality there, and I give some information, but I also do memes and things like that, and it's a lot of fun there.
Okay.
If you are ready to kind of poke around more and see if it's a good fit for you, please check out www.sheismoney.com. We have a society of intelligent, amazing, ambitious women. We get together 4 times a month on Saturday mornings, and we talk about goals, and we do coaching, and we learn new success strategy together. And my goal is to have 100 women in that society in the next year. So
Okay.
this is a great time to join.
And it sounded like we talked about your Saturday mornings, and I think we both decided we love our Saturday mornings because you get to come, you get to be with a bunch of women that you really want in your life and drink your coffee. And it's not as intense as I think it just sounded. It is, being around these people is fulfilling, and it helps you to make it through the next part of your weekday life and get to where you want to be. So don't let 4 times a week on Saturday be something that keeps you from doing it, because it is a relaxing time. She and I
Yeah.
talking about that. Yep.
It's all recorded, and people come as they can. And some people just sit and enjoy the company and kind of contemplate themselves. And some people, they want aggressive coaching, and they get it because we're still small.
Perfect. Amazing. Thank you so much, Johanna. I love She Is Money. We didn't even talk about So Money Society. Um, that's the name of it, right? Did I get that right?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh,
That's
we could have talked for
so
another hour. Maybe we'll
almost to
have a
my
second
podcast. That's how
episode.
my podcasts go. I love talking to people so much. This is my, I'm gonna confess, this is my therapy. Having people to talk to, women to talk to that are, to me, and this is my, I don't know what this is, you guys can decide, better and doing so much, and it's like so inspiring to me. So Thank you. I appreciate it. And yes, we have to definitely stay in touch. I'm going to share some other things with everybody soon. I'll be in touch with you about those things. Thanks so much. We'll see you next time.
Thank you, Felicia. It was a pleasure.
Thank you.
You've been listening to Money with Mission. There are projects happening right now where you can have a great financial return while positively affecting the lives of others. To learn more about our opportunities, go to moneywithmission.com.